Moritz, welcome to the show.
Hi, Stefan.
So I know you're working on Alby, and I've been playing around with Alby. I think it's really cool, and I wanted more people to hear about the story of Alby and a little bit about the project. So, firstly, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, just for listeners who don't know you?
Yeah, sure. Um, I'm working on Alby, doing more like the project management side because I have more like a business background. I personally discovered Bitcoin back in 2013 when I wrote my master thesis about Bitcoin mining and project evaluation using different option and decision tree models. Then I joined a venture capital fund, but I really realized that somehow they do not really invest in Bitcoin companies. So I joined a spin-off. We were exploring different use cases for Bitcoin, for example, how to pay a lawnmower using Lightning per square meter of grass cut. That was in 2019, and that's also the time when I got more into Lightning. I, for example, reached out to Vulgo Ventures because I thought they do such a great job in supporting the whole Lightning ecosystem. I then joined Oleg on a more part-time basis, doing some writing some research reports that also ended up in the Arcane research report because I built up a database and of Lightning projects, and that's also how I came across Alby, basically.
Gotcha. And so you came across it. So that means someone had already started this project. I presume that's the developer.
Yeah, it's Boomy, or his real name is Michael. He was, I think, as many of us, probably always super fascinated about how we can create these native payments on the internet, right? So he has a developer background, worked on different payment apps before, and then he also started contributing to Joule, a early browser extension for the Lightning Network. And then after the project stopped, yeah, he initiated the work on Alby. That was yeah, end of 2020, in
Mhm.
a really like community setup in one of these Lightning hack sprints back then.
Right, that's interesting as well because I recall in the earlier days of Lightning going mainnet, Joule was very much like a predecessor to Alby, and I remember playing around with it. And at that time, people were using Joule as their little in-browser Lightning wallet, and they would do things like
I
connect it to
see.
their Lightning node. And so people had like
Yeah.
a Casa node or other things like this, and it was very much like a predecessor to Alby's functionality. So I definitely saw a strong inspiration between the two when I was playing around with Alby, and I've been using it myself. But do you want to just tell us a little bit about I guess, the reason behind making Alby? Why make this?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I totally agree. So Albi is heavily inspired by Joule, um, conceptual wise, especially because I think so Will did a great job here, like building this browser extension. But at some point here, the development was stopped, although some like updates had to be deployed to keep it in the Firefox stores. And the idea of Joule, some of them keeps living on in Albi, and we can talk about that later on. But some parts we thought, okay, look, this is something, maybe there are more specialized tools with that. So Joule was always also used for node management, but today we have also specialized tool for node management. So there's a difference there. And with Joule, you could only add your Lightning or yeah, Lightning wallet that runs on LND, as compared to, I mean, other node applications or other wallets out there. And also here, Albi gives you a bit more flexibility.
Of course. And so what we're talking about here is the ability to have our Bitcoin node and our Lightning node and then connect a browser extension, and that's essentially what Alby is, that allows us to spend our Bitcoin over the Lightning Network or even to receive. And one thing that I find really interesting is that there's all these different ways of interoperability or methods of having interoperability. We have things like Lightning addresses, we have things like QR codes, we have things like WebLN, and we're going to get into all of these things. So I guess just high level in terms of Alby right now, what are the supported Lightning implementations? Is it LND only, or is there support for others coming?
Yes, yes. So it's there are a bunch of already supported, and also want to support more on that, because in our opinion, like the Alby browser extension is the portal for you to the world of Lightning apps, right? And we do not want to restrict our users to just use one specific wallet or one specific implementation. So you as a user, you can choose several. And if we talk about like really the low level of Lightning, the different Lightning implementations, right now we have LND. We also have Eclair, and we are currently working on a connector to Core Lightning that is on our roadmap, and it should be possible also because now there's a native plugin available with Commando for RPC commands. So this is one thing I think, but also LDK is super interesting. For example, to have a native node in your browser connected to the Alby browser extension, for example. But often the problem is a bit here that that all requires still a lot of engineering work to get these things working in a browser. So it would be awesome if we can sort of like team up with an expert from LDK or Core Lightning to get this going and to get it out into the hands of users actually.
Right. And so for users who are just following along, there are different Lightning implementations. The most popular one today is LND, Lightning Network Daemon by Lightning Labs. But some other popular ones are Eclair. Another one is Core Lightning, or also previously known as C Lightning by the Blockstream team, and then LDK by the Spiral Bitcoin team. And so uh, I guess what we're talking about here is Alby is an easy way for consumers to just use that Lightning wallet and experience Lightning on the web. And so I think that's a really cool thing that Lightning is now enabling. And that's part of this vision that people have been talking about for so long. But now with Lightning, we have some of the technology and we have some of the ways to interconnect and make all of these things actually work in a way that's actually the experience is becoming better and better and better over time. I'm sure years. If you went back years ago, it was a lot harder and it was just a far different experience. Whereas now, I think the experience that's enabled with things like Alby and browser extensions is people can have that more seamless experience. So the idea is you're browsing, and then you may come across a paywall, and it may be 500 sats or whatever, and you can pay that without having to like pull out your phone and scan the QR, as most of us are used to in the Lightning world. So, do you want to just talk a little bit about what that experience is from a user experience? Like, what is the user experience of using Alby?
Yeah. Um, I think this is a super critical point, especially when we talk to people who are not too tech savvy, not too much into Lightning. Then it all starts with the onboarding, um, but that we have to get right. Some people definitely, for example, want to connect their existing Lightning nodes that run at home, but the majority of people certainly they don't have a wallet yet, or maybe they have just a mobile wallet. So we also want to take care of these. You can connect your Raspberry Blitz, your Umbrel, your custodial mobile Lightning wallet, for example, Blue Wallet, Bitcoin Beach, or then especially for the people who do not yet have a Lightning wallet, you can also um, create a Alby Lightning wallet through the extension, and start playing around with Alby on different websites. And what you can basically do is bunch of things. You can pay, you can receive, you can log in to websites. and interact with different applications on the web.
Right. And so there's all kinds of functionality. So one is this idea of LNURL auth. So that stands for authentication. And so the idea is, just for listeners, obviously you understand this, but the idea is that you can log into different online services. So there are different ones out there. I know one, so there's a few examples. LN Markets. So that is like a Bitcoin trading site, but you can log in and out using LN auth. Another example is Stacker News. So stacker.news, you can log in with LNURL auth. And so this is something that Alby supports. So do you want to just talk a little bit about this idea of authentication using our browser extension, or really our Lightning node?
Yeah. So with Alby, we really want to make the interaction with web apps as seamless as possible. And that's why you can also use a Alby or the Alby extension to authenticate on web apps, right? And it doesn't matter if it is the Alby wallet that you connected, as long as LNURL auth is supported by the connected wallet, then you can do that, and you can log in with one click, you can log out with one click, basically. This is like, yeah, I think a big benefit compared to before, because you don't need a password to and remember a password to log in. And I'm super curious how to in exploring how we can actually bring this to a wider audience and usage also for other apps, not just for like Lightning enthusiastic apps. Yeah.
I see. And so I think the other really interesting paradigm here is we're starting to see more and more interconnection. And we're seeing ways that these different Lightning wallets and applications can connect and work together. So historically, people might have had to have a different Lightning wallet or a different app for different purposes. Whereas now I think it's shifting the paradigm now, where you might have one Lightning wallet that you can interact with different apps. And I think there was a blog post you had as well, which spelled some of this out. And I think it's an interesting way for people to understand the way Bitcoin or Lightning is shifting and the way it's going to become more accessible. So, do you want to talk a little bit about that interoperability, that concept of having one wallet but multiple apps?
Yeah, I think so. This is all based on an already open and global payment network like the Lightning Network, and this is such a big improvement compared to today's payment rails that we see, for example, with PayPal, where you can only interact with people who have PayPal. But on Lightning, you can interact with people who have Breeze. You can interact with people who have Phoenix, for example, because they all run on the same payment protocol. And this is awesome. And now what we came out recently with the Alby API, and the idea behind that is really we want to make payments accessible for everyone, and that's why we need these easy to use building blocks such as an API for developers, so that they can create apps with this seamless payment experience. And today the problem is often, I don't know, like how many apps do you have where you have sats on, or how many accounts do you have where you deposited some sats? Um, at least I have several of them, right? And at some point you probably you you don't have an overview about that anymore. And wouldn't it be like just nice if you can just have one wallet that is sort of interoperable with the different applications out there, and you can connect it. So what we thought, okay, the goal of this API is really um, to solve exactly this, that we need to move away from this send and receive user experience, or to move actually to the send and receive user experience, and away from this deposit and withdraw model that many Lightning apps currently implement. And also on the other side, make it easier for developers at the same time to include Lightning and Bitcoin payment functionalities into their app. So it's definitely a bit of a paradigm shift that we want to achieve here. But I think this improves greatly the user experience.
I see. So, as an example, instead of having an account where you deposit and withdraw, you might be referring to this idea that you can stream sats, or you can just continuously stream a small amount of sats, depending on what you're doing, depending on what the use case is. And I noticed that also in the app as well. So in the extension in Alby, I noticed on some websites, well, in general, it gives you that option of, hey, do you want to just set a budget and then just let the website automatically pull from your wallet up to a certain level? So I'm curious, what's the reasoning behind that idea?
Yeah. So I think it's a bit like we have to differentiate here a bit, because there's the wallet API that you can be used to include Lightning functionality into a mobile app, into a web app. And then there's also WebLN that serves actually a similar purpose, but this is more for the interface between um, a the Alby extension and the web app. But yeah, on a very high level, the functionalities are very similar, because what you can do is you can connect your app easily to this application, either through this API from Alby or through a WebLN, right? And for example, for this API, how this works is basically you can now bring your Alby wallet to another Lightning app, so it becomes basically a multi-purpose wallet suddenly. So and the app that you want to connect asks you if you want to add your Alby wallet account, like similar to login via Facebook, for example, and then you can connect your wallet to that app, and it's all based on the OAuth protocol, so it's an open standard in the industry, and this also ensures interoperability, and with also a minor lock-in effect for web apps. At the same time, they don't have to take care of like node management, account management of users, because this is basically like outsourced to to um, to Alby in this case, because the user now has a wallet that is like, yeah, okay, I can bring my own wallet to to any other app. And regarding the the allowances or the budgets feature that you just mentioned, this is one feature that is also particularly available in the Alby browser extension. And combined with WebLN, basically, you can really achieve these one-click payments compared to yeah, rather cumbersome payments when you have to look for your credit card details, for example, or you have to look for your smartphone to scan a QR code, initiate payments, and so on. But with these one-click payments, and the potential here is huge, right? You can also, for example, just like scroll through a website, and per scroll, what you do, you can initiate a payment, either like send a payment or just receive a payment, or you can also do that time based, and this just works because with WebLN, it's just a different set of connection basically between a web app and a wallet. um, you can have these programmatic interactions suddenly.
I see. And so it enables this whole new possibility around people monetizing online, because now there's this, it's really smooth and slick. And so, as Bitcoiners know, Bitcoin is this open network, anybody can join it. You can just earn Satoshis online for doing things. And then now, this idea is that we have a connected wallet that really smooths the interface online. So it makes it really simple to send and receive without having to pull out a phone wallet or log into things. You just have an Alby extension. And what you could do, I mean, depending on how you manage things, but you might have a smaller amount that you have just, in your Alby wallet, and you're using that for this back and forth spending. And I think it's really interesting and perhaps underrated, or people don't really understand this part yet, because it is just that early in terms of Bitcoin and Lightning adoption. And so I'm excited for this. I think it's really cool that we can connect up our wallet and even link to our own node. So, for example, I can link my own BTC Pay, and let's say I earn in on that, and then I want to browse on the internet, and then using Alby and WebLN and the different websites I'm browsing, I can pay for things, I can buy things straight away. And so I think it's a great demonstration for people of just how powerful Lightning can be, and how the overall ecosystem is being built out. And I think it's really cool because it's in a very open source, open ethos kind of manner. So that's really cool. I think those are some of the main things that I'm excited about. So with Alby, what's the structure of this? Like, is it just a FOSS project right now, or is it a company, or what are you thinking? What is it?
So the Alby browser extension itself is open source. It's very like community driven project. We are part of the Bitcoin design community. We have a Slack channel there. We have bi-weekly community calls where people come together, tell what they've done. We showcase things there, talk about our plans. Um, but it's also the case that that there's a official organization behind Alby in the meantime, because in order to be like to operate in a sustainable way, you also need to contribute back to the community, right? You cannot always take from them, but you also need to give them something back. So we also need to see how we can create value with Alby that is then like coordinated within this organization and distributed back to its contributors. So it's part of like, it's really like both sides.
Gotcha. Yeah. And so, of course, I'm sure many listeners are thinking also, hey, what about privacy and security ramifications? So let's get into some of those aspects also. I know, let's start with security. So obviously, there are a lot of browser hacks and browser things going on. I'm curious what can be done about that, in terms of this extension being able to control your wallet. Do you have any thoughts for listeners out there on the security of the use of a browser extension to control our Lightning node or Lightning wallets?
Yeah. I think it's important to understand here that that the Alby browser extension itself is a fully client-side application if you connect it to your own Lightning wallet. So and we know that it's a pretty it's a tricky topic. So and so that's also why we, for example, right now we make sure that it comes without any tracking software. That is important. And there is no connection to any like Alby organization or whatever organization in the back if you use it with your own Lightning wallet. So hence there is no data exchange with us. And what you only have to do here in this case, you only trust the software with your data, right? And also that's also a reason why Alby is open source, to give people the chance to review the code, for example. But there's certainly always some trust involved, and the trust model, I would say, is actually very comparable to your mobile wallet, for example, or to your app that you connect to your remote Lightning node or the node software itself, right? You always have to trust something and give access to some very valuable data. And this is the same also with the Alby extension.
I see.
And all of
Yeah. So
these, like the
yeah, go
mobile
on.
wallets also, they all have access to wallet credentials.
Of course, right. And so I guess the answer then from a privacy perspective is if you're connecting it to your own wallet, Alby doesn't know what you're doing, right? It's your own wallet talking to your own browser extension. And in the security case, well, I think that's just going to browser security. So it's a question about how secure browser extensions and browser security is. Obviously, that's a hot topic. There's often browser vulnerabilities and exploits and things, but nevertheless, it may be something that people can choose to mitigate that risk by, let's say, if it's possible to do macaroons or only authorizing a certain amount of value to be spent, or otherwise, obviously, limiting the amount that's held in that Lightning wallet. So if it's connected to your Lightning node and your Lightning wallet, limit the amount that's held in that. Obviously, don't be putting your whole stack in there. Obviously, this should be the spending money, or should be seen as that. But yeah, and I think it gives I think a Bitcoin experience for the web that's really, really slick. And so I think for some people that's worthwhile. That's, they're going to think, hey, I'm okay with a certain level of risk because I want this convenience and this experience. And over time, as that experience builds out and becomes better and better, then it may become more of a typical thing that people do, and they accept a certain level of risk there. I mean, in the same way that people might store credit card credentials in some password manager or things like that. That of course, credit card
Exactly.
information could also be compromised or could also be stolen or hijacked. So I think the ecosystem and the industry will evolve responses and security in response to some of these. But it's interesting to see which way that goes. Also, wanted to chat about the WordPress plugin. So I saw recently you released a WordPress plugin giving a Lightning paywall. So can you explain what this is and how it works?
Yeah, this is a bit like the other side of Alby. So there is the Alby browser extension side. That is really the idea. Okay, how can we make it easier for users to spend and receive sats on the web as a very consumer-driven project, whereas the WordPress plugin is really really targets website operators, developers, publishers, creators, and here our goal is also to make it easier for them to receive these sats and to be able to monetize their content. And that's why we also published the Bitcoin Lightning Publisher. That's the name of the WordPress plugin, and it follows very much also the similar idea of the Alby browser extension, because you have a very flexible backend where you can connect different wallets like Alby, like your LND node, also BTC Pay server, for example. Or if you run a LND hub or LN bits, you can connect that as well. Or just if you have a Lightning address, you can just plug it in, and then you can activate it. It has then different, let's say, more like front end facing functionalities. You can activate a donation widget, for example. You can also activate a paywall on all types of content. And this interesting part about these paywalls is um, that they have different functionalities. And the idea is also a bit, we want to give people the chance to experiment a bit, because yeah, we are still in such an early state where we do not really know, okay, in which regard do paywalls actually convert users to paying users, right? So there is, for example, a paywall that can be disabled after X hours when the article is published, or can be enabled after X hours when the article was published, or after a total amount or a certain amount was collected. So all these like different functionalities of a paywalls are available, and then other things as well, right? So you can quickly add a Lightning meta tag to your WordPress website. So in this case, if you have a meta tag, you would not need a um, payment plugin, for example. So that's especially interesting for people who have not so much developer experience. They don't know how to add a payment plugin to their website. What all they need now is a Lightning address. Add this Lightning meta tag into the HTML code with the WordPress plugin. It's just a click, and then it's integrated, and all people coming to your website using Alby, the extension, can now send you sats on a website. This is one thing. And what I also find very interesting is, for example, that you can with this WordPress plugin, you can also add a value tag to your RSS feed if you use if you use WordPress in general for hosting your podcast.
Yeah, there's a lot of functionality and things that can be built out here. And I think the other part that's really cool is you're making it accessible for a lot of people, right? Because as many people know, or maybe some people don't know, WordPress powers a massive number of web pages on the internet. It's something like 37% or something around 40% of the internet is powered by WordPress. And if, we're talking about maybe just under 2 billion people in some sense, uh, maybe maybe we're talking in hundreds of millions of people who could just install this plugin and boom, already now, start taking payment in Bitcoin to paywall their articles or their website. And in terms of getting a Lightning address, there are ways to do that too. So you can run BTC Pay Server and get a Lightning address out of that. There are some, KYC exchanges that even allow you to host. I believe Coin Corner in the UK allow you to get a Lightning address. There are other ways where you can get it through somebody else. So there's all these ways that you can set up a Lightning address, and now you can just get paid into that for your content. It's just that the world doesn't realize this yet, and it's really early, right?
Exactly, yeah. But I mean, just like if you look a bit back, 1 or 2 years ago, where, yeah, back then you still had to run your own Lightning node. Right now, you can sign up some with a wallet, and I don't know, if you go on lightningaddress.com, for example, you see tons of them that already provide a Lightning address, and with a WordPress plugin like the Bitcoin Lightning Publisher or this meta tag functionality. It's super easy to get started monetizing your content on Lightning, right? Even easier than adding a PayPal widget to your website.
Yeah, and without all of the censorship that comes with PayPal, because I'm sure there are people know they've seen on the news, or even recently there was one with Eric July. He's a well-known libertarian creator in the comic book space, and so he was starting his own comic book thing, and he was getting locked out from all of his own money by PayPal. But now in Lightning and Bitcoin world, people can set up their own Lightning nodes, and they can set up their own infrastructure and just not get stopped, and it's incredible. So I think what we as a community have to do is get better about trumpeting and making sure people know about this stuff, because it's there now, and now we have to, of course, I guess I don't want to get overly enthusiastic, but I think we have to also recognize it's early, and these things still have to be built out in a way that's easy and nice UX, and in a way that all plays together nicely. But the cool thing is, in Bitcoin, there's an ethos of this interoperability of FOSS open source culture, and so we're really seeing that. And so I think we are starting to see some of that now, really the interoperability and the way these different pieces can connect together and play together to make a very compelling way of doing payments online.
That's true, yeah. And I mean, you talk about a very, very important topic, and I think maybe that we should also invest a bit on that, because that's also a reason why we not only target no coiners with the Alby extension, but also a lot of thoughts go into how can we make the life of web developers, for example, how can we make that easier for them, so that they don't have to interact or learn how to build something on such a low level as LND or C Lightning runs, or Core Lightning runs. So that's why, for example, we want to also add more functionality into the Alby browser extension that exposes different features to developers, and to interact with the user's wallet, for example. And that's why we also heavily working on WebLN, what's the Lightning Web Standard, on and improve this specification that was also started by Bill and Joule, back then, and now also continued with Alby, but in a bigger context. More people join, more wallets integrate WebLN, for example, and it's important that we make the life of developers easier, because only then we see more usage of Lightning on the web, and more people come because they like this application that are built then there.
Yeah, and there's so many points of interoperability, or so many ways this could apply if there are creators, content creators online who want to make content, and then the people who want to pay them. And if it's really slick and easy to get started, then we're building out that network effect. We're growing the flywheel of Bitcoin and Lightning. And so I think it's really cool to see. I'm excited to see it happen. I'm also curious as well if you could just explain a little bit about the podcasting 2.0. Oh, sorry, actually, one other question. So, is there any connection with LSAT as well, with what you're working on with Alby?
Yeah, there is. It's also a bit related to developer ecosystem and building blocks that we want to support with Alby for the Lightning Network. Because we recently published a showcase, the Instagram. It's like Instagram, just with sets. So you can buy and sell images for sets. You can and send it directly to your own wallet. So the sats they don't go over the platform, but they are really, the payments are peer to peer. But the files that are the pictures in this case, they are uploaded to a web platform basically. And this is it's a very nice showcase because it includes different building blocks of Lightning. So you have WebLN there for one-click payments with the Alby browser extension. You have LNURL there with Lightning addresses from different providers, all interoperable, to receive payments, because someone like the payer needs to know where they sent the payment to. And then you have also LSAT there. This showcase is open source, and it combines all of these. And um, was a nice work actually by Quintin, Dhananjay, and Bhumi, I think. And what LSAT is doing here, it basically serves as both as an authentication as well as a payment mechanism here. So you pay for a picture on Instagram, for example, and you get an authentication token that allows you to request this resource from a website. So in this case, it's the picture. And the interesting thing here is that you can assign different attributes or capabilities to this token that you get through LSAT. So, for example, you can also then give this token to another person. This person can access the same resource on the web, and it could be a picture, it could be a video, like anything that this specific application with a LSAT server basically stores or provides. Right, and I think actually in some ways you could see it also a bit like an NFT, like that it's a token that gives you some certain rights. It can also expire, and there are very interesting applications out there that you can do with that you can use or create with LSAT basically. For example, and that's why we also bring out this Instagram showcase, to just show people how far we have come with Lightning and motivate more to build on Lightning, right? So you can, for example, also serve videos with ads. You can serve podcasts with or without ads, with special scenes or not. And this all works with LSAT, and you do not have to reveal your personal identity because you have this token that you receive when you paid it, basically. So it's a great tool, and I really hope to see much more of these showcases out there, or even maybe someone who improves and keeps working on Instagram.
Fantastic. And so with LSAT, I think it's interesting that this, I believe it came out off the top of my head. I think it was maybe 2020 or maybe 2019 when it came out, and the Lightning Labs team and Laulu were talking about it, and it was very early then, and now we're starting to see some actual, oh wow, here's some like real practical, you can use this. And so I think there's all these ideas out there, and it takes time for one of them to get picked up and put into a project, and then it's actually usable, like in a way that's kind of or I guess visible for the average user. Because I guess when it starts, it seems like, okay, it's like a developer thing, or like hardcore Bitcoin people who are coding away and doing some stuff. But then over time, it becomes practical and accessible for the masses. And hopefully, we're seeing this direction happen with more and more stuff around Lightning as well. So certainly I'm bullish on that. And yeah, let's chat a bit about podcasting 2.0, because I saw you came out with what's called Saturn. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Saturn was basically born because out of the reason that Alby, the Alby Lightning wallet, is also a wallet for podcasters, right? You can receive boosts, you can receive streams, you can also receive boostergrams in your Alby Lightning wallet. So it has quite some features there, but the problem here is in general, like if you receive streams, then you suddenly end up with, I don't know, like 50 payments of uh, 1 to 200 sats or so, right? And then you pretty quickly lose the overview. So we are thinking, okay, how can we present this list of transactions in a nicer way? And on the other side, how can we make use of the Alby Wallet API? Um, and then we also looked at the podcaster industry today. And what you see here is also quite interesting, because today, as a podcaster, you can actually only analyze what episodes your listeners are consuming. And the reason is that you can only measure downloads and listeners for each episode of an RSS-based podcast, but you do not know actually how your listeners are consuming one specific episode of your podcast. And that's why we built Saturn. And I think also Rainy did a great job here. And I think also users should keep in mind that it's still an early prototype, but it's a data analytics tool. And you get really actionable insights into the podcast's performance. So if you run a value for value podcast using the Alby Lightning wallet, what you can do now is you can go on Saturn, you can connect your Alby account. Um, then Alby or Saturn gets the transaction data out of your Alby wallet and nicely displays it. So you see who are your main contributors, for example. You also see live boostergrams. And then as a podcaster in particular, it's also interesting to see, because you learn if listeners are actually skipping over your episodes, intros, or your second mid-roll, for example, or what sections do they actually like in particular, and what not. And this is possible because with podcasting 2.0, you could actually now link value streams like Bitcoin-based micropayments to information streams, like your podcast or the podcast download. And if you combine these, you can bring exactly these insights to podcasters. And we are basically decoupling the podcast statistics that are just bound to one specific app and gathered by them, um, and make it available and interoperable to through overall podcast or like value enabled podcast apps, and make it particular available then for the podcaster. So you also now also own basically the stats to your own podcast. Yeah, and we will see how it turns out. It's super interesting space, definitely.
Right, and I think it's really interesting, because the idea is that with podcasting 2.0, people are streaming a certain amount of sats every minute or so, and they can periodically boost. And so you can see, when were the boosts happening, or when were the streams less? And I guess that's also kind of how you're doing that idea of understanding where is the drop off in terms of listeners. So yeah, I think it's interesting to see all of these things. So I guess in terms of your outlook on Lightning, just generally, I'm curious, what do you see for Lightning generally, or what kinds of things do you want to see being built in the ecosystem?
So yeah, so if you ask me what we are missing on Lightning, it's still we need many more applications out there. right? We need more exchanges that include Lightning withdrawals to make the onboarding easier, or maybe even deposits to make the off ramps easier. Because now this is what we see in podcasting. We often get the question, okay, how do I get my first sats into the app? To get started supporting podcasters. Podcasters on the other side ask us, okay, what can I do with sats? So we need to provide also at some point nice off ramps. Or if we don't have nice off ramps, we need just many more websites, apps that accept Lightning payments. So we need, and that's what we look after, especially at Alby, is we need a way more um, active developer ecosystem. And there are also, what we have to say, quite interesting initiatives already out there. So like with Bolt.fun, for example, then or Pleb Lab, they create hackathons. It's super important to get a community of developers going, and to have more people joining this system to build apps, to make to convince people to use sats on the web. And I can definitely see that, especially in the creator area, um, if you build things, people, and really improve the lives of people, for example, with this Lightning meta tag, we see that on YouTube, for example, you can include that now on your YouTube channel, a Lightning address. Alby picks it up automatically, and you can support this podcast, and it's so easier. It's a peer-to-peer payment. It's like you don't pay 30% to YouTube, so more sats end up in your wallet. And Alby comes with a lot more of these integrations, SoundCloud, for example, on GitHub, Medium, also on Twitter. And these things, they all improve the lives of people. They are super simple to integrate. You basically don't lose anything if you do that. And if you ask people to support you, they actually will support you, right? And I think this is what we see. I think a lot of more publishers, creators find their ways to Lightning, because it's 10 times better experience for them to compare payment systems today.
And I like the idea you just mentioned there about being able to read a Lightning address just on the web, right? So what you're referring to there is this idea that people put like the Lightning emoji and then their Lightning address. And so then you're saying Alby can just pick that up, and then the browser, the user who wants to donate, they can see that Lightning address and like straight away just tip them like that. That's what you're referring to, right?
Exactly, yes.
Yeah, and so I think that's really interesting, and it's like my friend Rusty over at Blockstream, working on Core Lightning and the Lightning protocol. He mentions this idea that he won't necessarily be able to predict. He said this years ago to me. He was saying we won't be able to predict what is the popular use for this thing, but we'll just kind of be coding away and making this thing, and then eventually we'll just see this use case just blow up out of nowhere. And so, I think that's kind of interesting because we're seeing this very interoperable way for Lightning payments to be done, where people can just leave a Lightning address, just even in their profile somewhere, and then anyone can just donate straight away to that without even having to, without any real friction. Because if they're running Alby or something like it, like let's say Alby gets competitors in the future and there are, lots of other extensions all doing the same kind of thing. And we've got this interoperable Lightning web payments going on. And ideally, it's done in a non-custodial way where let's say people are hooking it up with their own Lightning node. Now we've got this non-custodial interoperable interface all around the web. And I think that's a really cool vision for maybe potentially where this is going.
Yeah, and it makes the life of people so much easier to receive payments. And I think this is a crucial part if we want Lightning to succeed, or just to get a quicker adoption, is we cannot only rely on exchanges integrating Lightning. We also need to give users a chance to earn sats on the internet. And a Lightning address helps because people can get quicker on a Lightning wallet can distribute their Lightning address to apps, or put it on their own website and earn some sats. And I'm particularly bullish about web apps, for example, that come with a earning mechanism. So that use sats, for example, to incentivize their usage. So, for example, they reward you for posting great content. They reward you for giving tips. But of course, they also ask for payments because you consume also content on these sites. But I think as an app, we need to think, or as an app developer, we need to think, okay, how can we create this, even if it's just a tiny little economy around one particular app. But this is how you, as a app developer, you can more easily onboard new users, because you do not rely on users already having sats in their wallet, right? Because you give them a chance to earn sats on your own app. And I'm sure we see a lot of more of these type of apps in the future, because it makes user acquisition so much easier.
Yeah, fascinating to think about. I think having that built out ecosystem of places where people can spend sats, but I think importantly, to your point, earn sats, because I think that's probably also why we're not necessarily seeing massive amount of spending using Lightning on some of the sites, as an example, Bitrefill and things like that. But maybe that's because not a lot of people can earn on Lightning, and maybe once they could earn directly into Lightning, well, then it's only natural for them to actually start spending in using Lightning also. So I think that's an interesting direction as well. Any other thoughts just around Bitcoin and where you think it's going? Any speculations or things you want to share?
Um, so yeah, at Alby, we are really interested in building things. Uh, the certainly price also affects us, affects everyone in the industry. But it's a great time now for us to build things and be prepared for the years ahead. I think um, it's never too late getting into this field, especially like starting the learning journey with Lightning and an open source project. Um, from what I can tell, I also started contributing to open source projects. You learn a lot, especially if you have a great community around you that gives you quick feedback. And there are so many communities around, or projects that are open source within Lightning or the bigger Bitcoin ecosystem. Everyone who wants to get started, I think that's the right time right now, because you're not distracted by anything else like price also. Um, and it doesn't matter if you're a developer, if you're a designer. From what I can tell, at least with the Albi team, um, everyone, if you're a marketer, if you want to create content, you're very much welcome. Just like let us know. But I guess there are tons of others open source projects that are happy if they have contributors like this.
Fantastic. Well, listeners, go and find them. The website is getalby, getalby.com. There's a browser extension, there's a WordPress plugin, all kinds of things. Moritz, where can people find you and any other places to find you guys?
So yeah, we are also part of the Bitcoin design community. We have a Slack channel there. It's called the Lightning Browser Extension channel. On Twitter, we are also called Get Alby there. Or if you go on Telegram, we are at t.me/getalby. And yeah, happy to welcome more people there. Be cool.
Thanks for joining me, Moritz.
Thanks again. Was a great experience.